What's up guys, welcome to the first video on the Hobbit SBG YouTube channel. This is going to be a preview for the Beacons of Chester 2017. I'm going to be going over the rules pack today. In future we might do some more videos, but not entirely sure. So I've got the rules pack open on my computer. I'm basically going to go through. I'll try and split it into sections and put some timestamps in the description, but I can't promise everything because I might get lazy, but hopefully not. So start off, entry, all you need to do, join one of the event pages on either the Great British Hobbit League or the Chester Hobbit SBG group page on Facebook, and send £20 to my PayPal, which is gethinwatkins@hotmail.co.uk. There are currently, let's see if I go on the Facebook page, I believe 20 tickets are sold, and there are 2 on reserved. And we've got a capacity of 32 tickets available, so there's still some time if you're interested in coming along, but don't leave it too late because I will need to know 2 weeks in advance so we can make sure we've got all the tables and stuff. So, what can you bring along? You can bring along either a 500 point good army, a 500 point evil army, or both a 500 point good and evil army. This won't affect the way that the games are drawn at all. It'll basically depend on who you're playing. So if first game, you player A and player B. Player A brings a good army. Player B brings an evil army. They will then just play with those 2 armies. Player C and D. Player C brings a good army, but player D brings both a good and an evil army. What will happen is player C will play their good army, obviously, and then player D will compensate and take their evil army, meaning that there's going to be more good versus evil matchups. Now, if both players have brought 2 armies, so for example E and F, one of them will roll a dice. On a roll of 1, 2, 3, they will use their evil army, and the opponent will use their good army. This is basically being added as the idea behind this tournament is 6 out of the 7 games is based on scenes from the films, so having good v evil was kind of the idea behind the tournament itself. So obviously, force can be taken from the General 5 source books, There and Back Again, and the Hobbit Unexpected Journey book. Bring models, rulebooks, source books, glue, dice, 10 measures, etc, etc. Make sure if you want to use things that have been FAQ'd to bring the FAQ with you. We will have a copy of the FAQ on site, but you won't be able to take that to your table. That will be at the registration desk for the TOs to use. So, schedule of the game, or the date I should probably say. The date of this tournament is not actually in the rules pack. What am I doing? I will add that straight after this. So, the date is the 11th of March and the 12th of March, which is a Saturday and a Sunday. Obviously, it's in Chester. It's the Beacons of Chester event. So, registration on day 1 will start at 9:30. We will then have an hour and a half for each game. After the first game, we have a lunch break for an hour, and then there'll be 3 following games. Following that, there's going to be a evening meal of sort. We have the venue itself until midnight, so we've put up a poll on the page about do we want to go out for a meal, do we want to order food, or do we want to just go into town? Sorry, go to town and just grab stuff from the Sainsbury's, Tesco's, or whatever takeaway places there are. So far, the vote is we're going to order food in. So that means when the 4th game finishes at 6 o'clock, there'll be a bit of a buffer time, and then we'll probably order food during the break between the 3rd and 4th game, and hopefully arrive about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and we'll just stay in the venue playing more war games, board games, card games. So if you are interested in staying later, and you've got some card games or board games you wish to bring along, and you think people will enjoy, feel free to bring along. We've got plenty of space in the venue. It's got 32 tables and it's an entire building, so there's plenty of space if you want to play a loud game, quiet game, or such like that. So day 2, first game will start at 10 o'clock in the morning, so a bit of more lion. And then that'll be first game until 11:30. You'll then have a lunch break, same as the first day. Both days you get Subway meal on the lunch, that's included in the ticket price itself. You then have game 6 and 7, and then at half 4 until 5 o'clock will be the award ceremony. After that, most people will just be heading home. Maybe might go out into Chester to have a drink at one of the pubs if you're a local, but that'll be the end of the official event. So just do these bits and then I'll probably split it a bit. So tournament organisers, myself, Gethin Watkins, and also Joe Wilcock is going to be co-TOing with me. So on the day, if you have any issues with the rules or want to ask any questions, be sure to ask us. If one of us rules a certain way, please don't go to the other person if you don't like the decision, because that's just, no, you just listen to the TO you've asked the question to. We will then talk amongst ourselves to try and make sure that we answered the same question with the same response. So the venue itself is Stanley Palace on Walgate Street in Chester. It's a old Victorianish building. It's located just within the city walls. I'll just read from the prospect itself. So, Stanley Palace is located within the Chester walls. If you walk from Chester Cross down Walgate Street towards the Chester Racecourse, after crossing the dual carriageway, is the black and white Victorian building on the left side of the road. You can consume food and drink at the venue, so feel free to bring along snacks and drinks. This does include alcohol, however, we ask you to drink sensibly, so you can bring food and drink. As it says, alcohol is allowed. Don't be drinking loads and getting drunk or anything. You will be asked to leave if you are drinking too much, as it is a family-friendly event. Location, I've said Chester, so it's about 10 miles south of Liverpool, sits right on the border of Wales. If you want to come for a holiday, there's actually quite a few, or turn the weekend into a holiday, there's quite a few attractions. So there's the Roman Amphitheatre, Chester Cathedral, the Chester Rose, which are one of the only Victorian rows in the UK, I believe. It's also about 5 miles from Chester Zoo, which is currently features in The Secret Life of the Zoo, which is apparently on TV. I don't know, I asked my mum if she had any interesting facts that I could throw in the pack, and she said that it's apparently on TV. So good for Chester Zoo. Let's see, accommodation. So there's loads of places around Chester. Seeing as we've got the race course, there's quite a lot of people who do visit. The closest accommodation to the venue itself is actually the Racecourse Holiday Express, which I don't believe is too expensive. I had a look at the pricings and it was normal hotel prices, but there are also B&Bs, hostels, other hotels and the like. So don't feel you need to go there. Parking. So there's a parking area in front of the building, however you can't use it for the building itself, so you will have to find a car park nearby. If you go near to the racecourse, there is a parking area there, which is £5.50 for the entire day. There are also other parking locations around Chester itself, which aren't too far a walk. If you're having trouble finding any, if you post on the event page, I'm sure one of the guys from Chester will be able to help you out with the parking. As I said, with lunch, we get Subway sandwiches on both days, and it's located just outside Chester, so you can go get shops. There's a Sainsbury's really nearby, there's a McDonald's, there's Chester Market, there's a Burger King, Walk and Go, Butcher Noodle Place. There's loads of stuff, so you won't go starving, don't worry. I'll probably just continue. I won't split it up really. So, sportsmanship. It's the general GBHL rule of be a good sport. If you're being an ass, then we'll give you a warning. If you continue being an ass, tell you to get out. Pretty simple. Round pairings. First round pairings are going to be completely random. After that, it will go on the tournament points. So if you won, you're playing a winner, most likely, unless there's some weird things with draws. And then it'll basically determine highest victory points, and next highest victory points will match up against each other. If that makes sense. So after round one, everyone on one win will then work out who's got the highest tournament points or victory points out of them. They'll play the person with a win with the next most victory points, and so on and so forth, till we get down to the bottom player. The way it works is you get the victory points from the normal games. Tournament points are, a win is 3 points, a draw is 1 point, and a loss is 0 points. The winner of the entire tournament obviously will be the person who has the highest tournament points at the end of the 7th game. If there is a draw, it will then be the person, or the guys who are drawing, that has the highest victory points. Nearly get into the scenarios itself. So, awards and prizes. So, at this event, we're going to have the first, second, and third place prize. We also have a Best Painted Army award, a Most Sporting award, and the most important award, of course, the Wooden Spoon event, or the Wooden Spoon award. So we've got prizes for all them. We're going to try and get certificates sorted out as well, which will be awesome. So you'll have things to take home. It is a GBHL event. It's an 80-pointer, so determined by the standings in this, you will be ranked in the GBHL standings. I'm not too sure on the formula that Tom Harrison uses, but I'll be sure to post on the event page when the spreadsheet is being updated, so you guys can check out the standings and see how well you did and how many points you got. So, proxies, conversions, WYSIWYG, paint restrictions. Everything's WYSIWYG, so what you see is what you get. If you wish to proxy or convert a model, then be sure to contact either myself or Joe before the event. Don't come to us on the day because we will tell you no. You cannot blue tack things onto the models. Don't be silly. Don't be blue tacking those spears. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. If you wish to use a profile which doesn't have a released model currently, you will have to convert a model. I'm sorry. We can't allow direct proxies, so using a bat swarm as a warbat, for example. This is in the GBHL rules itself. What I mentioned before about the proxies is, for example, unreleased miniatures, the Gilgalad mounted. If you wish to use that, then as it's we will allow it. But no direct proxies, so unfortunately for the things which haven't been released, so the Chariot, the Signal Tower, the Warbats, you won't be able to use them, sorry. Unless you convert one. If you convert one, then that's completely fine, but be sure to check with myself or Joe beforehand. Painting, it needs to be painted to a reasonable standard, which means at least 3 colours, and you've not just gone 3 stripes. So the sword is painted, the cloak is painted. It doesn't have to be washed, shaded, highlighted, it just has to be based, that's completely fine. But make sure that it's an appropriate standard, as when you come to a tournament you don't want to see grey armies against you, unless obviously it's painted grey, but if it's just grey plastic then it's it kind of sucks playing against that kind of army, in my opinion that is, and the TO, so I guess that goes. So, banned models and army restrictions. Army restrictions for the event, you can have a minimum of 4 models. This was put in place to basically mean every single army at the event can be broken. Stops the 3 models not giving away breaking points, so players will have to think a bit more about their lists. And there are 3 models which are banned from this event. So Tom Bombadil, Goldberry, and the 0-point Golem from the Mordor sourcebook are all banned. This is across all GBHL events, I believe, if not most. But it definitely is at this event. For boards and terrain, it's a 4x4 foot board. There will be terrain placed. Please don't move any of the terrain. If there is a reason that you wish a piece of terrain to be moved, then please ask one of the TOs. We will then move it appropriately, but please don't move around terrain during or before the games or after the games. I've spoken about the good v evil stuff. If you want clarification on the good v evil, like what armies that you play against each other, then check out the rules pack, it's got a bit more detail, or if that still doesn't help, be sure to contact me on Facebook. So the last thing before we go into scenarios is the rules queries. We will be using the Games Workshop and the GBHL Community FAQs. These have recently been updated in about early January, I believe, so be sure to check the FAQs out, As I said, we will have a copy on the day, but if you want to reference a rule in-game, please bring a copy of the FAQ for yourself. If you have any disputes in ruling, please try and sort it out between yourselves. If you then can't decide something, rather than disturbing someone else's game, please ask one of the TOs to come over and sort out the rules query. If you're still not happy with it, you're going to have to use it for that game. If you're not happy with the decision the TO's made, then bring it up later and we will try and work out a better resolve a better situation for the rule, I guess. But if we say something in the game, that is final. Please don't continue arguing. Alright then guys, now it's time to go on to the scenarios for this event. So, there are 7 games in total. The first game is based on an old scenario from Legions called Storm the Camp. We then have 2 scenarios based on scenes from the Fellowship of the Ring, which is Shortcut to Mushrooms and Amon Hen. The 2 based on scenes from the 2 Towers are Wolves of Isengard and Ambush in Ithilien. And the final 2 are based on scenes from The Return of the King, which are Osgiliath Invaded and the Shieldmaiden of Rohan. So, start off with Storm the Camp. This will be the first game of the day. Both players will have a deployment zone. They'll choose a corner, and their deployment zone will be 18 inches from that corner. The objective of the game is to try and capture your opponent's deployment zone. To capture a deployment zone, you need to be within 12 inches of the opponent's corner and have more models than your opponent. So I'll go over the objective points themselves. So you score 3 victory points if you have captured your opponent's deployment zone. To capture the opponent's deployment zone, you must have more models within 12 inches of your opponent's corner of the table than they do at the end of the game. If you have captured your opponent's deployment zone but yours remains uncaptured, you instead score 5 victory points. So this means you basically need to charge into your opponent's deployment zone but still leave a few behind to defend, or it's either going to be charge everything and stop the game past you, or charge some of them to capture their deployment zone, but keep some of yours back to defend. So it should be a quite fun mission. I've played it a few times in the past, back when Legions was the main thing, and I've also play tested this mission a bit, and it's quite fun. There's also points for breaking, so 1 for breaking, 3 if you're unbroken. So on to the first scenario, which is based on a scene, Shortcut to Mushrooms. So, Shortcut to Mushrooms, the deployment is a bit crazy. So the good player deploys first. They set up within 12 inches of the west board edge, however they have to stay at least 6 inches away from the north and south board edge. The evil player then deploys at least half of their warbands within 12 inches of the east board edge and can leave the rest of the army in reserve or deploy them if they wish. They'll then enter via the ambush rule, which I'll go over later. The good player then sets up to Frodo in their deployment zone. The whole point of this mission is the good player needs to escort Frodo off from the west board edge to the east board edge. If they can do so, they get more points. If they can get it into the other half, so the eastern half, then they get some points. Whereas the evil player needs to stop Frodo from doing so. They can carry him, but the good army can't carry him. So go over that in a bit. So let's see. The good player scores 5 victory points if Frodo exits the battlefield via the eastern board edge. If he's not being carried and is within 24 inches of the eastern board edge, the good player scores 3 victory points. And the good player scores 3 victory points if the enemy force is broken, 1 point if both forces are broken. For the evil player, they score 5 victory points if one of their models is carrying Frodo at the end of the game. They score 3 victory points if they have a model within 3 inches of Frodo and the good player does not. And they score 1 point for causing a wound on the enemy leader, and 3 points if they kill the enemy leader. So the good and evil both have different objectives, but by completing the main objectives, they're stopping the other player completing their main objectives. Now, Frodo himself, there's quite a few rules, basically just clarifying that you can't do anything to him, really. He's literally an objective. The evil player can charge him, and try to pick him up. So if you go into a fight and beat him in a fight, you pick him up and he counts as a light object. Only evil models can do that. If the model carrying Frodo is slain, then Frodo is just placed as close to possible to the model's location. So yeah, so the good player just escorts him, can't pick him up or anything. The evil player can pick him up and he counts as a light object if they can beat him in a fight. The way ambush works, at the end of the move phase, you roll 1 dice for each of the evil players' warband in reserve. Roll a 1, they don't turn up. 2 to 3, they choose a point within, at least 12 inches away from a corner on the north board edge. 4 to 5, they do the same on the south board edge. Roll of a 6, they choose either north. Oh no, they choose any board edge, sorry. Misreading my own rules here. So yeah, they choose any board edge 12 inches away from a corner and they move on from that point. So this is the part in the film where they're trying to get Frodo to Bree away from the ring wraiths and then to a bit to Weathertop afterwards. So the evil player has half of their force and the rest of the force coming in reserves trying to capture Frodo. Amon Hen. Everyone knows where this is from. This is right at the end of the first movie when poor Boromir dies. So sad. So, the objective of this is there's a point in the middle, similar to hold ground, which you need to control. The way setup works is both players will roll the dice. If the good player wins, they deploy all models from a single warband within 8 inches of the center of the table. The evil player must then deploy a warband within 6 inches of any table edge. Both have to stay within the 6 inches of the captain of the warband, and this is then repeated until all warbands are placed. So the good player starts off within 8 inches of the middle, the evil player starts off within 6 inches of the board edges. Boromir is then placed right in the middle of the board, or an appropriate objective marker. Similar for the first mission, if you have a Frodo model, that'd be cool to bring along to count as scoring Frodo. If not, just using a general objective marker, which both you and your opponent agree on, then that's completely fine. Try and keep it the 25 mil of the normal base, so like Toriel that I've got here. If neither of you are using Toriel, it could be worth using a Toriel model because it's the same size base. Don't use a troll or anything like that, it's a bit silly. Try and keep it similar size. So the objectives themselves. The evil player, if the evil player has more heroes within 6 inches of Boromir than the good player, they'll be awarded 1 victory point. If the evil player has more models within 6 inches of Boromir than the good player, they will score 3 victory points. For this, a hero counts as 1 model for each wound they have remaining. So, if they have a captain with 2 wounds, that counts as 2 models. If the captain's got 1 wound, it counts as 1 model. If they've got Gulliver with 4 wounds, that counts as 4 models. So, kind of straightforward to understand, I think. So for the good player, if the good player has more models within 6 inches of Boromir than the evil player, they score 1 victory point. If they have twice as many models within 6 inches of Boromir, then they get 3 victory points. This is, on paper, the objectives is a bit favoured towards the evil player, but the good player starts on Boromir himself, so can set up a shield wall, which good are quite good at. A bit crazy. So yeah, and then there are points for broken as well. We also have some additional special rules for this scenario. So the Horn of Gondor. All models in the good player's force within 6 inches of Boromir gets +1 to their dice roll when performing a courage test. And for the evil player, they get a special rule called the Time of Men is Ending. If the evil player's leader is within 6 inches of Boromir, they gain Fearless and Terror special rules. If the model moves out of 6 inches of Boromir, they lose any special rules gained this way. This is basically to make it a bit more thematic, so the good player is trying to defend Boromir, the evil player is trying to kill him. I think these special rules are relatively balanced. I think that it works out fine. We played a couple of games of this mission and it seemed alright. So hopefully that it's a pretty cool special rule that you guys will be able to enjoy. Now, the Walls of Isengard. This is relatively simple to explain. Basically, it's to the death, without the points for banner, and broken is a bit different. So normally the way broken works is when you exceed you get your breakpoint, which is 50% of your force, and when that's exceeded, you're counted as broken. However, in this game, you instead break when you are reduced to a quarter of your models. So if you have 40 models in your army and 21 are killed, you're not broken. You become broken when there are only 10 models of your 40 models left. So this is a bit more properly to the death, so your guys won't be running away as much. To compensate for this, you do score 1 victory point if you manage to halve your opponent's force. So 1 point for halving, the 1 to 3 for leader, and 1 to 3 for broken, where broken is 25%. So it's still to the death, but it's more to the death, which in the Wolves of Isengard scenario, or in the scene you see itself, they do fight more to the death, which is pretty cool. So, Ambush in Ithilien. This is based around the scene in the film where the Rangers of Ithilien ambush the Harad and the Mummoks and end up capturing Frodo and... I nearly said Pippin. Frodo and Sam. Why would Pippin be there? So Frodo, Sam, and eventually Gollum. The way this works is the evil player deploys in... What is it? The evil player deploys within the center of the battlefield, which is a zone which is 16 inches away from the north border edge, 16 inches away from the south. So within that block there, they'd deploy their entire army there, and then the good army deploys within those 16 inches of the board edges. The idea being that it is a ambush, and the good player does get first-time priority in this one. So we've got the objectives and the special rules. The objectives is basically Lord's Battle. So you get a point for every wound you cause, a point for every fate you cause, and you get points for broken. As well as this, you get a special rule for the evil player called Fight to the Last Man. Whilst the evil player's leader is still alive, all heroes and warriors in their army get a bonus of +1 to their courage value when taking courage checks for being broken. So this doesn't affect terror checks, it just affects the courage. I put this in because I thought it was pretty... The good player gets the first turn priority, so has the potential of shooting the enemy quite a bit and killing a couple of them. And this means that their army's the evil army will stay around a bit longer than the good army, or than it would usually, which I think adds a bit, and also means that the lead is actually a bit of a priority in the Lords of Battle scenario. So, on to scenario number 6. This is from The Return of the King. So, Osgiliath invaded. This is the part in the film where Gothmog's going across the waters with the ships towards Osgiliath itself. It's all night and it's a bit spooky. They kind of know where the orcs are coming from, but not exactly. So, to show this, the evil player starts off by putting a blank token next to each of their warbands. These have to be identical. Don't put separate tokens for each, just put, if you have 4 warbands, get 4 1-penny coins, or 4 10p coins or something. Just make sure they're, if you can, make sure they're identical. They then place each of the tokens within 12 inches of their deployment table edge. The good player then deploys their entire force within 12 inches of their own table edge. Can't be more than 6 inches away from their warband captain. When this is done, the evil player chooses one of the warband captains. It doesn't have to be a specific one, just chooses one of them and replaces any of the tokens on the field with that captain. And then deploys the rest of the warband there, takes the next captain, does the same with the next token, and so on and so forth. This basically means that the good player has an idea of where each of the warband, where there is going to be a warband, but not the specific warband itself. So it's both it's in the dark, they're not too sure, and then they get close enough and they see where they are. The objectives for this are, there are 3 objective markers. One of them is in the middle of the good player's half, and 2 of them are in the middle of the table, so 16 inches away from the edge, from the east and west, 24 inches from the north and south. To score victory points, there's points for broken. You, as a, what is it? So, as either player, you score 1 victory point if each of the center objectives that has both friendly and enemy models, but more friendly than enemy models within 3 inches. If there are no enemy models within 3 inches, you instead score 3 victory points. So if you both have the same amount of models in the middle, neither of you get points for that. If one has 3, one has 1, then the person with 3 gets 1 victory point for that. If one player's got 3 and 0 of the opponent, then they get 3 victory points. Now for the objective in the good player's half, the evil player scores 1 victory point if they have at least 1 model within 3 inches of the objective placed in the middle of the good player's table half. If the evil player has more models than the good player within 3 inches, you instead score 3 victory points. However, for the good player, you score 3 victory points if the enemy player has no models within 3 inches of the objective placed in the middle of the good player's table half. So, this basically means it's easier for the evil player to get points from the good player's objective. However, it's in the good player's half, so once again they can set up the shield wall, they can stop the evil player from getting past, and it also means they don't actually have to have a model on it. They just have to make sure there are no evil models there. So it's a bit of an interesting one. We tried a few different ways of doing this scenario, and we found that this is quite a good way to do it, so decided to go with it in the end. And finally, onto the last scenario, the Shieldmaiden of Rohan. This is when Eowyn has killed the Witch King, and she's really weak, and you need to defend her as the good player, the evil player, trying to avenge the Witch King and kill her. So, the idea behind this is hold ground with one main change. So, with hold ground, you've got Maelstrom of Battle. The way Maelstrom of Battle works is at the end of your move phase, you then roll to see which table edge your warband deploys from. However, personally, and I've talked to other people about this, not a big fan of Maelstrom of Battle. I find that it can sometimes win or lose games. I remember going to the Scaring of Cheshire last year. First game was against Josh Trivett, and I had my good force. I think I had like 14, 13 might points. I think I used 7 or 8 of them just to get on the board, which that's not good. You shouldn't lose games from the scenario setup. To me, that just doesn't make sense. It's like playing a role-playing game and having your character die when you're creating him. It's like, it's a bit weird. So the way to change that for this scenario is, rather than walking on, you deploy the models. So you roll to see who sets up the first warband. Each player chooses a warband, rolls a dice. They then choose the point, or your opponent chooses the point, like the Maelstrom of Battle table. However, rather than moving on, you just deploy within that point. It is your movement though, so if you have a point, say, here, and you're a warrior, you get to deploy within 6 inches. If you've got cavalry, deploy within 10. If you're an eagle, deploy within 12, and so on. So hobbits are deploying within 4. Poor hobbits. That'd be interesting to see if they can actually deploy. We haven't thought of that, so good luck to any Hobbit players out there with this scenario. But yeah, and then apart from that, it's the exact same HUD ground. Eowyn is the objective in the middle. Once again, if you have an Eowyn model, that would be awesome to bring along. If you don't worry about it, just bring along a normal objective marker or something like that, and agree with your opponent to use it, and that should be completely fine. So, that is... Yeah, just make sure, score 1 victory point for each mob within 6 inches of Eowyn, score 1 victory point for wounding enemy leader, 3 for killing, 1 if you're both broken, 3 if your opponent's broken and you're not. So yeah, same as normal whole ground. And that is the end of the rules pack. I think I talked quite quickly, so I hope that you got all of that information. If you didn't get any of that, or you want me to go over anything with you, personally, then be sure to message me on Facebook. I'm on both the Great British Hobbit League page and the Chester Hobbit SBG group. In case you can't remember, I'm Gethin Watkins, so Gethin for the first name, and that should come up. I don't think there's any other Gethins in the GBHL. You could also search in the search bar on Facebook. You'll probably see one of my posts on there, either advertising this or talking about random stuff on the hobby group, because hobby knows on. Yeah, so I think that's everything from me. So if you are interested, be sure to message me. There are 12 tickets still available, 2 are still pending payment, so it would go down to 10 when they're paid. It should be an awesome event. This is the first event that I'm doing for the GBHL, but this is going to be the 3rd Chester event that I'm running. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Be sure to check out the Chester Hobbit SBG group if you are in the local area. There'll be a link in the description below. If you come across this video and you're not part of the GBHL, then check out the link for that. The GBHL Facebook page is an amazing community for all Hobbit players. There'll also be a link to the GBHL YouTube channel because they put so much content. It's incredible. Some of the stuff that they do, including the weekly shows, the Speak Friendly Question, Palantir, and such. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope to see you at the Beacons of Chester 2017 event, and happy hobbying.